BookTube, it's Amy, and I'm back again with a fourth reading from the private papers of a bankrupt bookseller. This is a fictional work published in 1931 originally, purporting to be the diary of a bookseller who has gone bankrupt. And in this fourth reading today, we are on page 33 of my edition, beginning with a section titled Cacothes Scribendi. Why do I scribble away in this back shop? What hopes have I? John Milton wrote, by labor and intense study, which I take to be my portion in this life, joined with the strong propensity of nature, I might perhaps leave something so written to after times as they should not willingly let it die. Is that why I write? Or does Thomas Carlyle explain, produce, produce, were it but the pitifullest infestable fraction of a product, produce it in God's name. 'Tis the utmost thou hast in thee, out with it then. John Keats felt something like that a generation before. When I have fears that I may cease to be before my pen has gleaned my teeming brain. John Keats wrote that sonnet, but its conclusion does not explain it to me. Then on the shore of the wide world I stand alone and think, till love and flame to nothingness do sink. Is it inspiration that bids men write? The answer is in the tale of an earlier John than John Keats. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and heard behind me a great voice, saying, What thou seest, write in a book. Thus wrote St. John the Divine. What I see I write, not to the 7 churches which are in Asia, nor yet unto Ephesus, nor Smyrna, or Pergamos, nor Thyatira, nor Sardis, nor Philadelphia, nor Laodicea. I write for my own satisfaction, a bookseller among his books. St. John the Divine, surely a patron saint of all writers, will understand. The next section title is titled A Bookseller's Customers. It was one of these economic books, of which I have today discovered I have only a very meager stock, which set me thinking of my human relations with the world at large. We are a nation of shopkeepers. Though why Napoleon should have selected us especially, I never clearly understood. The French, at any rate, in the spacious years from 1915 to 1918, seem to require little to complete their knowledge of the art as far as my recollection serves, and they showed such skill, hampered as they were by limited stocks, as leads me to believe that theirs was an inherited rather than an acquired quality. However, shopkeepers all the world over don't last long, and never long enough to tell a tale, if there are no customers. It is an odd word, the word customers, and as the stock copy of the concise Oxford Dictionary of Current English points out, a customer is a buyer, but more than that. The oddness of the word, as I sense it, has a dictionary justification, for the meaning given is expanded with a reference to the colloquial use of the term as implying queer or awkward, a rum customer, long before the great free American Republic dreamt of Volstead or dreaded his act. Was one so another book of reference declares, better left alone, as he is likely to show fight if interfered with. Truly an odd word, but one which fittingly describes my customers at any rate. The philological origin of the term eludes me, but it may have its roots in the ancient suspicion which the owner of property feels towards one who may be seeking to acquire it. Genovese, the Italian economist, declared that exchange consists in giving the superfluous for the necessary, but an older teaching announced to be a skeptic world before Genovese that fair exchange is no robbery. The world doubted that dictum then, and I fear still stands with St. Thomas. A fair exchange is so difficult to understand. How much do these inscrutable customers of mine desire my books? What would be a fair exchange? There are no balances in which such bargains can be weighed, for I don't think I ever parted with any book from all my stock, but with a feeling of regret, without a sense of loss, even although I knew that I might replace the dear departed with another by return of post from the publishers. Habit dies hard, and possession, and especially pride of possession such as I have, is an eradicable thing from which 1,000,000 Carnegies with their municipally aided plans for book lending could never wean me. I want possession, and even though I must sell to live, to sell, to lose possession, retches at something in me older than my memory can recollect. Some of my customers, frankly, are a mystery to me, and the darkness of their mystery is not lightened by the books they buy. Some superficial space filler has written, "Tell me what a man reads, and I will tell you what manner of man he is." He was no bookman who wrote that. If clothes oft do proclaim the man, to some they leave me in darkness, and books certainly give to me no clearer clue. I have a panel doctor who reads every detective story he can lay hands upon, and he must be no rare type, for I see more than one publishing house is issuing a series of detective or mystery stories. What does that taste in books proclaim in him? Has he an analytical mind? Does he love problems for their own sake? Is his life dull? And do such books give him a thrill, a much-needed thrill in the monotony of panel patients, pills, and plasters? Who can tell? I can't, and I have sold him 6 such books with never a syllable from him as to why he reads them. I only know that he would buy a book like John Ferguson's Stealthy Terror or one of Isabel Ostrander's amazing yarns every week if I could provide one, and yet I cannot fathom what manner of man he is. There is the draper, too, next door. Heaven knows what his mind is, for he buys a most astonishing variety of books. He believes there is a book about everything. He was a gramophone enthusiast when I first met him, and he must subscribe to the gramophone, of course. He had to, learning to listen by means of the gramophone, a book I looked at but I really couldn't read. Then he had a book by Archibald Marshall and Compton Mackenzie on the appreciation of the gramophone, and I almost was convinced I knew him by the books he read. But I was wrong, for his versatility broke out in a different vein when an unwanted general election burst in on an astonished people. He took to politics and displayed an equally industrious devotion to that topic. He became greatly interested in the capital levy and read Dalton for the Penfather Against. He bought Coal and Power and Sir Lyndon Macassie's book. He tried to get me to discuss The Hope of the Worker by Austin Hopkinson, and even offered to pay for a copy of The Case for Capitalism if I would only read it. My resistance was weakening, for he is a good customer of mine, and when he threw over politics as dramatically as the Right Honourable Mr. John Burns or Lord Morley did at the outbreak of the war, and was off into the history of costume and dress. What can the most profoundly analytical mind make of such a customer? What do his literary tastes reveal except diversity? And what does diversity show in a draper any more than in any other son of man? There is no conclusion to be taken from what men read. Man is not so simply manifested. Man is a mystery, and the key to that mystery is not given to the seller of books. So I wrote days ago, I find, and it does not matter much if I agree or disagree with what I wrote then. This I remember, that my writing was broken off by this historic, happy incident in the life of a shopkeeper. As to the shop of John Gliplin, so to mine. A customer came in, and I laid down my pencil to attend him. He disproved my theory altogether, for he was a man from whose inquiry I learned something. He was a man who that very morning had sought and bought a guidebook to the city. He came back at 3, and it still rained, and he wanted to buy a timetable. From his purchases, morning and afternoon, even so purblind a shopkeeper as I could glimpse something of his mind, and what I saw of it did not seem to rate very highly the beauties of this very beautiful city wherein I have set up shop, for he sought no more from the Bradshaw than information as to when the next train left for home. And that is the end of that section. We'll read one more because it's short. The next heading is titled Lovely Woman. Sometimes I have been a little contemptuous of my friend, the ladies' outfitter next door. I have been wrong. The blue stocking I served today was a freak for all her erudition. Women without beauty are unnecessary. The world needs beauty. It can do without knowledge from women. The props of a lovely life are the beauty and elegance of women, and the courage and knowledge of men. Foppish, brainless men and inelegant, brainish women are encumbrances. The two needs for men are war and literature. For women, love and clothes. Good-looking women don't bother about books. They go next door. I am convinced that they are overwhelmingly right. The instinct that makes them do it is as old as the world. No wonder their fathers and husbands forgive them, although they know not what they do. And I'd have to disagree. I think we would all disagree that many a good-looking woman can be found with a book. But we will pause it there for this video, and I'll return in a day or so with the next heading, which is titled Titles, followed by the back shop of the bookshop.